Okay.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Doctors Changing Medicine podcast. And today I have one of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Catherine Toomer. And she is a family medicine doctor, and she is the founder of Ache and Wait No More. That's one of her businesses. And then she has The Whole You. And you're going to hear all about her. But I will tell you this, she's a family medicine doctor, and 20 years ago, she lost 60 pounds and she's kept it off. And she helps her patients do the same and her clients. It's the most amazing thing. She's phenomenal. And you're going to hear everything about it in a second. Welcome to the show, Dr. Toomer.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited you're here.
So
Okay,
am
so
I.
so I brought you on because you are like the perfect example of what the Doctors Changing podcast is all about. Doctors Changing Medicine podcast is all about, which is we can change the way we practice medicine and we can change our experience as doctors in medicine, right? So, yes,
Yes.
we have all this stuff going on in the space, but we can change that. So, you've done that. So, I want you to kind of walk us through what was life like before, how you practice medicine before? What does it look like now? Paint that picture so the doctors can, be blown away like I'm blown away by what you do.
Okay. Well, it sort of happened in increments. Um, as you mentioned, 20 years ago, I lost 60 pounds, and that was because of a health crisis. And so I actually left medicine for a little while to get my health in order. So when I went back into medicine, I realized I probably couldn't go full time if I wanted to maintain the health that I had gained over my time off. And so I am a community health and family medicine physician. So I was drawn to FQHCs, the federally qualified health centers and community health centers. And so that's where I went. And I immediately realized that there was a lot of need, especially in prevention. And when trying to educate and do what I needed to in a 15 to 20-minute appointment, it just didn't work. I also saw a lot of obesity and saw a lot of the things that I was trying to fix tied to obesity. And I thought, I've done this. I was obese before I lost weight. So I knew what it took. I knew the fear, I knew the difficulty, I knew the obstacles. And so I started trying to do that in my appointments and I just couldn't. And so finally, after beating my head against a wall for many years, I opened a micro practice. And essentially, what I did, I created an umbrella organization called Health, Wellness, and Weight Loss Centers. And under that, I decided I was going to do different things to branch out in any way I needed to education, treatment, however. So I opened a micro office, kept my overhead very low so that I didn't have to see a lot of patients to stay open, so that I could spend an hour with a patient if I wanted to. And so that's what I did. I created an entity where I needed to only see about 5 patients a month just to cover everything. So essentially, what happened is I started seeing people, started growing the practice, uh, found a phenomenal business coach, Dr. who helped me scale up and helped me expand and grow and get my message, out there. And then COVID hit. But one of the things that you also did for me, Dr. Una, was you told me to start thinking of ways of helping more people because that's what I kept saying. I was still frustrated that I was only helping one person at a time. And one of the ways of doing that was to try and go digital or go online. So when COVID hit, I was able to pivot within a week and go straight to um, completely online. Um, uh, it was coaching, counseling, kind of consulting as well. Now, I would like to mention that my father passed away the same weekend that the country shut down. And so I kind of shut down right along with it. But fortunately, because my overhead was so low, because I had had so much success prior to that, I had a huge cushion. And I simply just took 2 weeks to a month off. I took 2 weeks completely off. And then I started building my way back as I felt more comfortable. And and so now uh, I see people 3 days a week. 5 hours, 3 days a week, so 15 hours a week. I keep my Mondays and Fridays free. Monday's my education day, Friday is my organizational day, and the rest of the week I kind of fill in as I need to. And I'm constantly learning. It gives me a lot of time to take courses, to get involved in community aspects. I sit on the United Way board in my community. I've just been asked to sit on another board, Education Matters. So I get to do all the things that I've wanted to do. I get my hand in everything without burning out, without overextending, and it's wonderful.
That is, I mean, you guys see, it's such a magical picture, right? Of that before. Now, as far as, I mean, how many hours were you working? I know you weren't working full time at your job at the time, but how
hmm
many hours a week do you think you were working?
Well, I was supposed to work 20 hours. It was extended to 25. I was driving about 3 to 4 hours a day.
34
So it
hours a
ended up,
day.
yeah. So it ended up being really more than full time.
Wow. So you went from more than full time to 15 hours a week.
hmm
And on your
With
longest
complete
day,
control over my schedule. So I can
complete
open up,
control.
shut it down, shift it around, do whatever I want to. If I want to open up a weekend and take away a weekday, I can do that. I just have complete control.
That is so beautiful. And I love that you talked about, pivoting within a week.
hmm
And I don't know if you remember the conversation we had after that, because you didn't we didn't even have a conversation about it. We had talked about it way before.
hmm
But I came on a call, I'm like, so what's going on? Oh, I moved everything online. Boom, just like that, right? So the ability to respond to a crisis, you had that because you'd taken the steps to own your own business. And
hmm
you had a double crisis because it wasn't just the pandemic, it was also the loss of your dad, who you're really close to.
Yeah.
And so being able to do all of that, what impact has it had on? So we know what it's done for your timing, but now
hmm
how about revenue? You don't have to give us exact numbers, but when you were working more than 40 hours a week, right, and doing the
hmm
15-minute visits versus when you took ownership and said, this is the way I want to serve people, I'm willing to build a business around it. What
hmm
does that before and after look like?
Well, the before was, a steady income. It was just, flat income, wasn't based on anything else other than my coming to work. And then I did take out a small loan, business loan, but I factored that into my the number of patients I would have to see. And so I took out a business loan knowing that if I saw 3 patients a month, I could cover the loan payment. And so at first I wasn't making any money at all, but I was breaking even because I was making a little bit because I was seeing more patients um, than I needed to see. And then what else? I'm sorry. Kind of got distracted because I forgot I had my Apple Watch on and the phone
Well,
call
you're
comes
being
through that.
healthy. You're being healthy.
Yeah.
We won't object
But
to that.
so and so what I did was I made sure that my focus was not on revenue. And so it actually grew faster for that reason because I wasn't constantly nervous. I wasn't constantly chasing a dollar. And so within, I would say, and you'll know, it's hard for me to remember numbers because I pay so little attention to my revenue that I'm sure within a year I was back to where I was before. Um, when I pivoted, my income went up almost immediately because I could help. Suddenly, I was helping everyone locally before who continued to come and see me virtually, but then I also was able to expand internationally. So I expanded nationally first, but I have some international clients as well. And so it actually jumped.
Look at that. In the midst of a crisis. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I, so for someone who's maybe has a micro practice or has a direct primary care type of practice where
hmm
it's all, cash pay, no insurance. I know there's this challenge around getting people to see the value and getting
hmm
people to sign up when they could have insurance and not have to pay as much and all of that stuff.
hmm
What would you tell that person? Because this is your
hmm
thing.
Well, um, one of the things, it wasn't very difficult because weight loss is one of my focuses. Everybody wants to lose weight, and they don't expect to necessarily be able to pay with insurance. However, because I'm a doctor and because I do look at a lot of medical stuff, first I do look for medical causes for people's weight gain and their resistance to weight loss. I do get some people saying, well, can my insurance cover this? And I did try to take insurance at first. It failed miserably because they just did not reimburse well enough for me for what I did. And so I just let people know that um, insurance doesn't cover it, but the cost of what you pay in the long run is cheaper. You'll save money in medications you'll no longer have to take. You'll save money in assistance you'll no longer need when you're older. You'll, save in really wasting your health on food items that really don't do much for you. Um, and then and then also what I found out is because I'm a licensed physician, because I do have an EIN number, because I do some testing and I do a lot of background checks in terms of health and wellness, that many I'm also tax deductible. I'm considered a health expense, and so that also offsets. Now, of course, you have to pay up front and then get a deduction, and that's not for everyone. I don't know how the tax code works. I don't
Yep.
think anyone knows how to, but I am considered a health expense, and so I can be listed as that.
That's wonderful. So essentially, what you're doing is you're identifying the objections and you're overcoming them, right? Like in
Yeah,
technical terms, you're selling, but it doesn't
yeah,
feel that way, right? Because
no.
this is what selling is. It's not something sleazy people do. It's you
Mhm,
showing people why this,
mhm,
this is the best option for them. And what you do
mhm.
is amazing. So, can you give me one or two, testimonials from your clients? Because I love hearing about their stories, right?
Okay.
Like, one or
Um,
two.
I would say some of the biggest objections I hear is nothing's ever worked before, so this isn't going to work. And I was like, well, if you really thought it wasn't going to work, you wouldn't be here. So let's prove you wrong. But one of the biggest I hear is I'm too old to lose weight. And so generally what I do is I look at all the reasons that people have kind of gone up and down throughout the years. I look at any medical issues. I look for pre-diabetes, hypoactive thyroid, um, all of that. And then if I find something, I treat it. Or I make recommendations for them to take back to their primary care doctor to have them treat it. Often that fixes the weight gain. That's it. Um, if it doesn't, just because a lot of yo-yo dieting over the years, people's metabolism dropped to almost nothing. And so I have to work with that. So when someone's in their 70s, their metabolism has been affected, they really don't have anything pre-existing to cause their weight gain, then I come up with a plan for how to help people do come up with something that they can do now and 30 years from now. And I have a recently who she's given me permission to talk about her. 71 years old, lost 36 pounds. She actually lost at
No.
first 20 pounds and then plateaued for a long time. And I kept saying, don't get discouraged. Your body's just resetting. Let it reset. And then if after 6 months you haven't budged, we'll make another adjustment. And after 6 months, she was staying around, 1 or 2 pounds same. And so we made an adjustment and the next 16 just came right off.
Wow. So
And in fact,
71 years
now
and she
actually
lost
what we're doing,
36.
I'm slowing her down. She's moving too far um, over. She's getting too low. And I just told her now you need to have some weight reserve in case you get sick,
Yeah.
and you want to have some muscle and fat around in case you fall to protect your joints. And so we're actually slowing. We're actually I just met with her and we're slowing it down because she's still losing weight and we need to stop it.
And I really love what you do because you're not necessarily a weight loss person, right? Your thing is more wellness, it's more
Hmm.
health. And so if the weight coming off is what needs to happen, great.
Hmm.
If you need to stop losing the weight, that's great. I mean,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like whatever
Yeah.
is needed, and that's fantastic that you do that. All right. So since people are listening, so so lovingly, do you want to give them one tip, like
Hmm.
doctors, this is one thing you can do,
Hmm.
to manage your weight and stuff like that. We'll just get a
Okay.
freebie out of her, people.
One thing you should do. One thing, the number one thing I tell people, drink more water. That is, when I lost my weight, that was probably the one thing that affected my weight loss more than anything else because it affected my appetite. It changed my mood. It gives you, it changed, I wasn't as tired because I was dehydrated. And so I always tell people drink water before putting anything else in your mouth, and you'll see a huge difference in your appetite, your weight loss, your health, how well you feel. Exactly. Always keep my water.
Yeah.
um, and that actually is probably the the one thing that's easy to do that will greatly affect your well-being and your sense of well-being very quickly. I mean, one day makes a difference.
Awesome. All right. So drink water, and especially before you put anything in your mouth, drink water
Mhm.
first. Okay.
Yeah.
She's drilled that into my head, by the way. In our business coaching relationship, she drilled that into my head. So she's an evangelist for this.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a doctor thinking like, wow, this is
Mhm.
amazing. Like, how did she go from, she didn't like these 15-minute visits like I don't.
Mhm.
She didn't like driving 3 to 4 hours every day like I don't. Like,
Mhm.
so maybe I can make my own way, right? And
Mhm.
it may not look like what you're doing. It may not look like what I'm
Mhm.
doing. It's whatever their thing is.
Mhm.
What advice would you give them? Because they're like, I don't even know where to start from. Like, what would you tell them?
Well, one of the things I would do was plan a little bit better than I did. I just sort of just stopped and jumped, which, worked out well for me. But um, one of the things I would have done is plan. And one of the plans I did make, which did work out very, very well, is I made sure my overhead was low. I created what is considered a micro practice. So I did my own intake, my own everything. Um, and then went from there. Now, most people would have hired someone a lot sooner than I did. Um, and so I didn't at first. Once I went virtual, I did hire a virtual assistant. And now, as I go on, I'm hiring more people. But mainly, what I would recommend is one, knowing you can do it, two, planning. And if you really, really don't know, honestly, get a business coach. I mean, I'm not here to plug Dr. Una, but honestly, that's what made the difference for me. I was floundering, I was kind of running in circles, and I had someone help me streamline my ideas, help me focus on activities that mattered, and stop wasting a lot of time on things that didn't. Um, and then that, and like I said, keep having a low overhead were the two things that kind of saved me throughout.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, you guys heard her, all behind the scenes and everything. So some doctors are interested in all of that
Hmm.
stuff and they want to follow you and follow your work and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Where do they find you?
Where did they find me? Well, one ischtoomermd.com, and that's TOOMERMD.com. And no, I am not an oncologist. And I've been asked that many times. um, and then I'm also on Facebook, C Harmon Tumor MD. I am I have Health, Wellness, and Weight Loss Centers is also a page on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Health, Wellness, and Weight Loss Centers. And you can find me any of those places. Oh, and my email is wellness at total weight loss.com.
Awesome.
So,
And we'll link to all of those in the show notes as well. Um, so I usually would end the episode with a question. And
okay.
the Doctors Changing Medicine podcast is more than a podcast, it's a
Yeah.
movement, right? Like,
Hmm.
so we don't like our experience in medicine. We don't like the way we have to practice medicine, but there's a million
Hmm.
of us. If we don't like the system, we're going to change it. Okay.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
what. And so I tell everybody, I'm like, you have to share the episode. This is a
Hmm.
movement. You have to share it. So, what
Yeah.
would you say is the reason why the doctors listening right now 100% need to share
Hmm.
this episode?
They need to share it because not everyone is as old as I am. I'm 55. Not everyone remembers what it was like having hour-long doctor's appointments. When I was growing up, that was normal. And so, or don't remember. a time when doctors weren't working for someone else,
Oh,
who weren't
wow.
being taken over by hospital systems, who were able to have community offices where they were part of their own community and everyone came to them. And so it's really important to share this so that people understand there's not one way. There's a lot of people making a lot of money off of our intellectual property. They're not going to
Wow.
be the ones to tell you how to go on your own so they can no longer make money off of you. It's up to us. And it used to be that way. And somehow something shifted where that control was taken away from us. And the only way we're going to take it back is to take it back. It's not going to be given.
Okay, that right there, I need to clip that out and save it and play it back to myself. I will tell you something. I don't
Yeah.
remember the days when doctors had hour-long visits.
Mm.
Like when you
Yeah.
said, I
Well,
was
that's
like,
because you're a youngin. I'm
I,
much older than you are.
I'm like, I actually don't and so that's a vital part of our history, right? Because it's
Hmm.
like what we're experiencing now, we think this is all there is, but it's
Hmm.
like it hasn't always been this way.
No, this is
And
not the norm.
this is not the norm. This thank you for sharing that. That is so powerful. And you said there are a lot of people making a lot of money off our intellectual property. Like when you think about it that way, you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to protect my my intellectual
Hmm.
property. Thank you so much for. I didn't see that coming. that is so good.
Hmm.
That is so good. um, Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for taking us behind the scenes.
Hmm.
Thank you for these last words because that's really powerful, really really powerful, and I appreciate you coming on. This has
Hmm.
been really good.
Thank you for having me. I always love these. It's always fun. And I love because honestly, I really, really appreciate all that you've done to contribute to my success. And so anything I can do to contribute to yours, even if it's just a little
Oh,
bit, I'll do it.
oh, thank you. And this was not a little bit. This was so good. But thank you. You did the heavy lifting, so you make me look good. How about
All right. All right.
that? Thank you so much for coming, and for everybody listening. You heard her, right? That is that is so powerful. Let's paint the picture of what medicine can look like because what is going on now is not the norm. It's not the norm. So go share this and go say yes to your thing, embrace it, explore it. And who knows, you'll be on the podcast next and I'd love to celebrate you. But go share it and I'll see you on the next episode of the Doctors Changing Medicine podcast.